Hi, Kristine, and welcome to Imperfectly Charming Podcasts. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you. I'm excited too. This is new and fresh for me, so thanks for having me.
I'm going to read your bio, and then we'll talk a little bit about how you and I got connected in the first place. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to share something close to my heart. I've created a soul nourishing course called Conversations with My Soul, a gentle guided journey to help you reconnect with your inner wisdom, quiet the noise, and listen deeply to what your soul is longing to tell you. If you've been craving more clarity, peace, and purpose, I invite you to check it out. You can find all the details in the show notes and at imperfectlycharming.com. Now let's get started with today's episode. Kristine Stein is a holistic practitioner, health coach with Dr. Mindy Pelz, and owner of Brew City Botanicals. With over 20 years of experience, Kristine specializes in hormonal health, digestion, and skin health. She holds a master's degree in herbal medicine and nutrition, along with the level 2 aromatherapy certification from NAHA. Kristine handcrafts organic body care products and healing salves from plants she grows herself. Her passion for natural healing began with witnessing her mother's battle with breast cancer and the toll conventional treatments took. Inspired to forge a different path, Kristine pursued formal training in holistic health to empower others. She believes deeply in the body's innate ability to heal when given the right tools and support, and is devoted to helping others find hope, no matter where they are on their health journey. Is there anything I forgot or anything you'd like to add to that?
No, you summed it up nicely, but I do like to remind people that regardless of what they're diagnosed with or what health conditions they have, your body knows what to do, and there's always hope for healing.
Oh, I love that. I love that hope. And I'm hanging on that.
Yeah.
So let's step back and say where we got connected. So I have been following Dr. Mindy since or not her first book, since Fast Like a Girl came out. And I loved what she stood for. I started fasting along with everybody, and I was in the regular Facebook group. And I was not having a lot of success with fasting. I wasn't seeing any weight leave my body. And so I reached out the Facebook group and I had said, "Hey, I'm following this along. I'm doing the protocols." And the first thing that someone in the group said that worked with Dr. Mindy was, "I think it's time to check your liver." And so I said, "Well, what should I do?" And liver packs were, oh wait, coffee enema was one of them, liver packs, and I can't remember the third, but I was like, no, no, thank you on a coffee enema. And I started doing liver packs. And then and then I joined her Reset Academy. So I'm part of that. And that's where our story begins.
Yes.
Because Dr. Mendy had recommended the Dutch test. And that's where you and I have been connected for almost a year now. So I've been working with Kristine on my hormonal health journey. And today we are going to talk about botanicals and how they help the liver. Okay.
Yes, and all things natural that we can do for the liver that and people aren't aware with what the liver all does either. So yeah, I'm hoping we can, I mean, there's a lot of info, but we're going to pack it in.
Yeah, sounds perfect. And the most basic information you can give us, e- easy to understand and digest, would be perfect, I think, for me and maybe my audience.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
but I was looking at your website, and maybe we had talked about it, and you had mentioned the liver performs over 500 functions. Can you walk us through a few of the most vital ones and why this organ plays such a crucial role in our overall health?
Yeah, it's like, I feel like we're always finding out more too, like what the liver does more as we learn more about the human body and more research is done. But basically some just, general things that the liver is responsible for is for example, cleansing the blood, and it helps detoxify our body of things like heavy metals, chemicals, natural waste material that's produced by the body. Our bodies are bombarded on a daily basis of just a ton of toxins. And these toxins are present in our environment. They're in our body care items, they're in our cleaning products, they're in the water supply, they're in the food, especially processed foods, in the air we breathe. I mean, you could really drive yourself nuts thinking about all these different toxins bombarding your body on a daily basis. And the liver has to deal with all that.
Because
Um,
it processes it, right? It has to
right.
process through the liver.
Yeah, everything goes to the liver, and then our liver also, you know, um, processes our hormone activity. And there's, not to get too in the weeds here, but there's three different phases of hormone detoxification, and the first one begins in the liver. So that liver health is really important when we want to keep our hormones balanced. Another thing our liver does is it enhances digestion by producing bile, and bile is actually what helps us break down our nutrients from our food and helps to emulsify our fats so our body can utilize these fats for things like our cell linings, our brains, and nervous systems. And a lot of us, if the liver is sluggish, it's not breaking these fats down for us to utilize properly. Um, and, going back to the hormone activity, this might be why people are experiencing things like, hot flashes and night sweats, or maybe heavy bleeding with menstrual cycles or mood disorders, is because the liver isn't able to process hormone activity like it should if it's sluggish. Um, and then finally, another really great thing, Cheryl, that the liver does for us is it promotes energy and good metabolism. When the liver is overwhelmed and sluggish, it can't metabolize our nutrients properly, which can slow down metabolism and lead to fatigue. And then other organs have to actually step in and overwork to compensate for that liver that's a little overwhelmed and depleted. So that in a nutshell is kind of like some of the main functions our liver provides.
Now, when I was looking into the liver packs, which is what your group had suggested, that is talking about castor oil and putting it on a pack, putting it
Mhm.
on some cotton, organic cotton, and placing it over your liver. And I was doing mine every night. And I was reading that the liver works, oh wait, how to heals your body. And isn't it a certain time of the more early morning where that happens? Like between 2 and 4 or 3 and 5 or something.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So we call it liver time. It's between 1 and 3 a.m. And that's based off of traditional Chinese medicine, which has been around for thousands of years. And each organ has sort of like a regeneration time if you look at the 24-hour circadian rhythm clock. And yeah, the liver time is between 1 and 3 a.m. So often, if people are finding themselves waking up at this time, that can be an indicator that the liver needs a little bit of support. And that castor oil is really great because we talked about bile production for the liver, but also, um, you want to like kind of open up all those tubules and filtering mechanisms in the liver to help with bile flow in the liver. And that's what those castor oil packs do is they kind of dilate things and allow for more of an expansion in the liver.
Um, because of all the toxins in our food and our products, there's things called forever toxins, right?
Mhm.
Now, can the liver help process those out, or are they just like stuck?
Yeah, those are tricky. So they can be processed out of the body as long as they're not, sometimes if the liver gets overwhelmed, these things will get not filtered out of the bloodstream, and then your body tends to stick them in fatty tissue, and then they stay there until they're coaxed out somehow. So that's another point in keeping the liver healthy and happy is when you're exposed to these things, your liver's going to clean it. Like I kind of talked about how the liver cleans up the blood, and cleanses things. Um, if your liver is not overwhelmed, it can certainly keep up with that. But again, that's another way we can keep those forever chemicals out of our system is by working on liver health and keeping that organ healthy and happy.
Are there some things that you would like someone that's just looking into their liver health or investigating it that you would recommend starting with?
Yeah, I have like top three things I really just because, most of us are eating a standard American diet or have for most of our lives. So there's actually a lot of things in the standard American diet that can impede health of the functioning of your liver. And really one of them, the top one is high fructose corn syrup. That is like a no-no for the liver. That's really detrimental to liver function and health. So, you have to really start looking at labels and looking for the word corn syrup or high fructose corn syrup. Very bad for the liver. The second one are bad fats. And when I say bad fats, these are fats that don't really provide nutrition. They're kind of rancid when you buy them. These are things like vegetable oil, corn oil, soybean oil, canola oil. If you go to your grocery store, they're in plastic bottles under lights. They're already rancid. Those are really bad for the liver as well. So really leaning into the healthier fats like coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, just kind of making that switch. Um, and then
And dark glass bottles, right? Dark
Yes.
glass
Oh yeah,
bottles.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, anything that's going to be higher quality, you're going to notice the packaging is going to be in the darker bottles to prevent the light from degrading the oil. Um, yeah, and glass, of course, versus plastic. And those plastics are leaching those chemicals into the oil too, so they're just not good. And my third one would be actually, any added preservatives or colorants, really any synthetic chemicals that your liver has to process. Um, those are all things that, just three things that you're going to want to put the microscope. And again, it's all going to go back to working from that processed standard American diet, working to more of a whole foods based diet and more fresh vegetables and the label reading thing is kind of daunting at first, but once you get to know a label, then it's real easy. It's real quick when you're in the grocery store or, looking things up online. It's just that learning curve, learning what to kind of look for and then get used to all the words and things or ingredients, I should say.
And one of the things that I also uh, heard or learned and been looking at is anytime it says natural flavors, that's where they hide a lot of
Yeah,
bad
you're
stuff in
absolutely
there
right.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's talk a little bit about how the liver helps with our hormones, right? It does.
yeah, absolutely.
Can you share your perspective on how hormonal imbalances are connected to liver function, especially for women?
Sure. So, again, because the liver is our largest metabolic organ and it has over 500 known functions. Um, Basically, what happens is our body makes hormones. Those hormones get broken down into usable forms. And once those usable forms carry out their duties, then the body has to start getting rid of those, what we call metabolites, and get those out of the system so that they don't recirculate and cause additional issues. And when I say additional issues, that can mean, you know, again, hot flashes, night sweats, mood swings, cancer causing, heavy bleeding, fibroids, all those kind of things. And that whole hormonal processing process has three different phases and it begins in the liver. So your liver actually metabolizes these hormones into kind of easier forms for the other two phases to get those metabolites out of the body safely. So the liver is key in breaking these metabolites down and getting them into different forms. And then we look at cellular function, and finally, we look at how we get it out of the system through the colon. So if the liver is sluggish or not functioning tip top, or our livers can take a lot of abuse. So I'm not saying that it's totally dysfunctional if, say, your liver is, I don't know, a little sluggish, but as it gets more sluggish, you're not going to be able to break down those hormones properly, and then you will get symptoms. People might have like weight stall or weight gain, or going back to the night sweats, hot flashes, mood swings. difficult periods, migraines, believe it or not, is a huge indicator that the liver might be stressed. Um, so as women, we have to be really careful because a lot of us are using, up to 12 different body care products a day. We're most of us are on the go and maybe not eating the best. Plus, we're taking care of families. We're doing it all, right? So for women, it's really important for us to kind of focus on ourselves and do a few things to be proactive so that we don't fall in that category.
Is the Dutch test, which, what does that stand for? I always forget.
It's a dried urine test for comprehensive hormones.
Okay, so is that the one thing that women should start with in order to find out about their liver function, or is there something that they can use or do or try before that?
Yeah, it's kind of tricky with liver health because if you go and get, say, a panel done with your doctor, they're not going to find anything off unless your liver is like 40% dysfunctional or more. So, like ALT and AGT and some other like liver indicators, they'll look normal even if your liver, say, is 30% off. And doctors won't, like fatty liver disease is pretty common among Americans. I would say like 1 out of 3 Americans have a fatty liver to some extent. And you don't know that unless you get an ultrasound, and you're not going to get an ultrasound unless the doctor feels it's necessary. So it's really hard to know if there's anything wrong with the liver. So that's what's great about the Dutch test is it's a urine test and you can just purchase it on your own, and you can have it interpreted. But the Dutch test shows not only how your sex hormones look, but also how your adrenal status is. Your adrenal glands help you make your sex hormones. And then, of course, we look at liver health and how well the liver is breaking down those hormone activities. And that can be really, that can really direct people on how to like what to work on. So, yeah, unfortunately, like just doing blood testing and doing the conventional route doesn't really tell you a lot.
And that's where I worked with you and found out that, oh my gosh, my hormones were jacked up and my cortisol was as high as it could be. My adrenals were bad. Um, my DHEA, which I've been learning about, and because of that, you are able to help direct me to use the right supplements.
Hmm.
Um, and and I am happy to report that our last meeting that we had, that I used a saliva test because you don't take a Dutch test more than 10 months apart. Is that what that is?
Yeah, yeah, usually you don't want to take it too often.
Right. And my numbers improved from using those supplements. So, um, Kristine gave me a little bit different protocol. So we are going to hopefully see how that goes until I take my next test.
And pat yourself on the back, Cheryl, because that's a lot of work. You did other stuff too, so that's the key too, is implementing some lifestyle changes, to make that long lasting, that change long lasting.
Right. I do have a question. So one of the protocols that I was using before was the liver packs, the castor oil liver packs.
Yeah.
And this time you had suggested that I do those again, but you only wanted me to do them for 3 months and then stop. And
Yeah.
is that in, tell me more about that.
Yeah, so usually it's something we suggest people cycle, meaning you don't have to constantly do it all year round every day. We usually recommend doing, 3 to 4 times a week. If you can wear them overnight, great, but we suggest wearing them for at least 2 hours. And then you can do that for 6 to 8 weeks, and then you could take a 2, maybe 3 month break and then revisit. So usually that's enough. Those castor oil and the stimulation and opening things up in the liver, that time frame is enough to kind of get things cleared out and dilated, and then you can kind of just cycle it. So that's what I mean by cycling, is you don't have to do it every day for, you know, forever. You can just really focus on it and then take a break and go back.
So the saliva test that I had, because I had my numbers had improved, does that also mean that my liver function had improved?
So that's hard to say because that test was looking at more at your adrenals.
Okay. So when
Yeah,
I do the Dutch test again, you'll be able to compare my last one to this one.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, liver health just it seems like it's so important. We all need to be uh checking into that and making sure that we're doing good for our bodies.
Absolutely. Like I got this is maybe a little side information about me, but I do like to indulge in wine. I do have cocktails once in a while. And for me, I was wondering how much of that impacted my liver. So I got a continuous glucose monitor, CGM, just to kind of see how alcohol impacts my liver function. Because that's another thing people will mention about liver function is like, well, what about alcohol? And it's true, your liver has to process that ethanol to acetate to make it into a safer form. And that all depends on how much you're drinking and what you're drinking and things like that. But I'm learning about how alcohol consumption affects blood sugar. And of course, that relates to liver health. And it's been a really interesting journey for me because I found that alcohol does I'm pretty boring. I stick with red wine and like, vodka and seltzer. So my blood sugar doesn't spike. Like if you drank, say, a sugary tiki drink or something, your blood sugar would spike and then we get a sharp decrease. But I am noticing it in the evening, my blood sugar is dipping a little bit lower after I have a drink or two.
Oh,
So I've been
dipping
kind of,
lower. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, because the liver helps regulate your blood sugar. So instead of my liver regulating my blood sugar, it's busy processing the alcohol.
Um, in regards to alcohol, I will tell you that I'm not a big drinker either. I drink occasionally. I play mahjong on
Hmm.
Wednesdays, and sometimes we'll have a glass of wine after we finish. And I will tell you that whenever I swear I drink wine, I have an aura ring, and my sleep is completely different than
Hmm.
when I don't.
Hmm.
So yeah. So
Amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. It's me too. My sleep is definitely interrupted. It's because the liver is like not it's distracted. It's not doing what it's meant to do for you because it's processing alcohol and doing,
right.
it's kind of distracted, like I said. So
And
yeah.
it was like one, it's only one affects that. So it's
Yeah,
not like you're having a bunch. It's amazing.
it is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but our livers, our liver is trying to do what's right for us, right? And do the best.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, are there any practical or approachable ways we can support our liver on a daily basis? Through well, you had mentioned, stay away from some of those toxic items.
Hmm.
And what about herbs and lifestyles? And I also want to talk about your business, your botanicals.
Yeah, yeah. So, for liver function, I would say so two things we want to do to keep the liver healthy. We want to allow the liver to produce enough bile. So going back to bile production, bile helps break down our nutrients, bile helps emulsify our fats, and the liver produces bile. And sometimes if the liver is sluggish, it's not producing enough bile. So really what enhances bioproduction are our dark, leafy, bitter tasting greens. So those would be things like, arugula, radicchio, endive, chicory. These are all things you can find in the grocery store, usually like in a spring mix. They're already washed and ready to go. Um, if you have even just one or two servings of those per day, that's going to help with bile production. Any bitterness on the tongue will actually stimulate bile production. So also, many of us probably have heard of bitters like aperitifs. You can actually buy bitters that are made of bitter tasting herbs like artichoke leaf or burdock root. You can take an extract of that before eating, which will also stimulate bile production.
I actually saw this from one of I think it's Dr. Gundry. Is that a name? He was
Yeah.
just talking about making his own sodas using bitters and like sparkling water, a mineral water. And would that have the same effect if it was diluted? Do you
Oh
think?
yeah. Yeah. You don't need very much of the bitterness.
Okay, because I thought, ooh, I'm gonna try that. I'm not a
Yeah.
soda drinker, but I drink sparkling water a lot. I buy mineral water a lot.
Okay,
So I was gonna
yeah.
say that.
Just
So that's good.
Yeah, just adding some bitter extract to your sparkling water would be good. So I would say that's one thing you can do through food is making sure you get those bitter greens and or bitters every day for bile production. And then secondly, we kind of talked about doing the castor oil packs for like opening the tubules and dilating things in the liver. So castor oil packs would be one way. Another way is there are a few essential oils you can rub topically over the liver that help do the same thing. And those are things like rosemary, helichrysum, geranium, frankincense. Those are all really good for the liver to help you know, um, kind of dilate things. And those are all relatively easy things you could incorporate into your life. Of course, we know there's a more drastic things we can do, but
So are you saying you can put the botanicals right directly on them, like put them on your hand and then rub them, or do you mix them with something?
yeah, so that's a good point because some people can be more sensitive than others when it comes to essential oils. So you can always just take, say, a quarter size amount of a carrier oil. When I say carrier oil, that can be like argan oil or jojoba oil or almond oil or, apricot kernel, any sort of oil. Even if you have like a nice,
Castor oil too? Castor oil too?
you could, it can get a little sticky. Castor oil is a
Okay.
little sticky, but any sort of clean lotion too, you have, meaning like if you have a lotion that's made with really clean ingredients and healthy, you can even put a few drops in there and then just rub it right over the liver.
I saw that you had lotions on your website.
Mhm.
Would that be one of the one you could use with that with your
Yeah,
botanical?
I have a rosemary and cedar lotion that already has the rosemary in it, so that could be rubbed over the liver. Um, you know, and that can be. Done every day.
Okay.
So I would say those are the top three easiest things to implement for liver health.
Um, but you also have to be careful of the ingredients in some of that stuff, right? You still have to look for essential oils that are clean. Are most essential oils clean, or do you have to watch the
No,
ingredients?
yeah, so essential oils can be very much adulterated. So you want to kind of use reputable companies. Um, I do distill some plant material, but I don't do it for essential oils because you have to to make essential oils, you have to have sometimes tons of plant material to produce an essential oil. But I like companies like Mountain Rose Herbs, they're in Oregon. I like Eden Botanicals, they're in Northern California. Or Acacia is another one that's in Minnesota. So these companies, do a lot of it's called gas chromatography, where they kind of really test to make sure the material is what it says it is, and it's chemically tested and things like that. So, yeah, that's a good point. You do want to make sure these sources you're getting good sources, with your products.
Dr. Mindy has a couple that she recommends too, right?
She
Is
likes
it?
Restore Hope oils.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And they're,
Um,
I think, based in Kansas City, Missouri.
those are some good tips. So I'd like to ask you a couple questions about botanicals.
Yeah.
Um, any way that you're going to ever produce a perfume? We're using essential oils because I love perfume and I know that they're so bad now. So
Yeah.
I would love to find an essential oil blend that that didn't smell like, a strong essential oil, but it was a beautiful fragrance.
Yeah, I have a few, I call them aromatherapy spritzers. I have an orange blossom one, I have rose, lavender, and then I have one called Walk in the Woods, which is more of an earthy, like I like earthy, heavier scents. And that's that actually I made it because it reminds me of taking a walk in the woods after it rains, and that's that nice
Mm.
woodsy deep smell. So I do have those available now, and I also have what are called hydrosols. So hydrosols are from distilling plant material. That's kind of what I was mentioning earlier. When you distill plant material, you have a little bit of hydrosol, but the rest of the byproduct is referred to as a floral water or hydrosol. So I have many different hydrosols. Those aren't as strong or long lasting as the spritzers because they're basically just, condensed plant material, not as condensed as essential oil, but um, they're a little less concentrated, so the smell doesn't really last too long, but the spritzers are definitely something um, that would be appropriate for that. And I am working on more based on like traveling, like different scents I picked up, in different parts of the world. So
I also saw that you had salves, and one
yeah,
of them really interested me was the one for bruises.
yeah, yeah. So I grow my own arnica, which arnica is really great for bruising or sore muscles or joints. And then I process it and I infuse it into an oil and then I make a salve from it. So yeah, the healing salves are really great for whatever condition. I have one for poison ivy exposure, one for like, itches from like if you have bug bite or eczema or psoriasis. And then I have a burned in wound care, which really is great for sunburn, windburn, cooking burns, any sort of burn. It takes the pain away instantly.
That is great to have on. And now that you say that, I did see that. That's great to have on hand.
Yeah, that's probably the bruise and burn salves are probably the most popular. And I just made a version of the burn salve into a spray because a lot of my friends that are going like to the beach and going on vacation, they're like, you have sandy hands, you don't want to rub it on. So I made a spray for them and I'm gonna make that sort of like official.
Oh, I love it. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
it. So, is there anything else you want to tell us about botanicals? And I also want to ask you if there's anything else you want to add about the liver before we.
Yeah, yeah. The botanicals are really fun to work with, and I love encouraging people just to like take a look around what's in your area too, and learn about it because you know our bodies are so so encoded with nature. Everything in nature is like our bodies respond really well to. So when I talk about botanicals, I think of what you're eating and what you're putting on your body and what you're exposed to and things like that. And um, just, going the more natural route, if you have a headache, maybe try like white willow bark instead of Tylenol and just really working with the body because um, our bodies are amazing and respond really well to any sort of herbs and botanicals.
Mhm.
Um, and the liver loves herbs. So like another thing I wanted to mention, Cheryl, for herb health or liver health is really doing more liver supporting or things that support liver health, like herbs that would be going back to the burdock root, going back to like dandelion leaf and root, artichoke leaf. There's so many herbs that are really work well for the liver. Milk thistle is another big thing that probably a lot of people have heard of.
In part of my protocol after my Dutch test, the milk thistle tea and the dandelion tea. Did
Yeah.
I, did you just say something else, or did I get them both?
Dandelion, yeah, milk thistle, dandelion, artichoke leaf is another one, or burdock root is another one.
Okay,
Those are
the
all
bitter
like,
foods.
yeah.
Does apple cider vinegar fit into the bitter foods?
Um, yeah, that's actually, it does help enhance digestion.
Because
Um,
I started a protocol just to do that, to help with that, and I know that helps with blood sugar too. So it was kind of a
yeah.
double whammy.
Yeah, I'm utilizing a really nice salad dressing by the Bragg's company where it's their ginger apple cider vinegar. Usually I make my own salad dressings, but this is really nice on bitter foods because I'm getting a lot of like liver support there. So
Mhm. Anything else you want to add?
yeah, I do want to add something just because
Okay.
these are lesser known things about the liver.
Yes.
The liver is the main source of cholesterol production. There's a very close relationship between liver and elevated cholesterol. 80% of cholesterol is made by the liver. So when cholesterol is consumed, technically the liver reduces its own cholesterol production and removes excess cholesterol from the body. And the same is true if we don't eat enough. The liver will produce more cholesterol. And this, of course, all works really well if the liver is healthy. So I always let people know, like, hey, if your cholesterol is difficult to control or manage, you might want to look to liver health. And something I mentioned earlier about the whole blood sugar components, if you're having trouble regulating your blood sugar, you really want to look to the liver. So those are just two lesser known things I wanted to add because um, I mean they're huge components that affect most Americans. So or most of the Western culture anyway. So I just wanted to quickly add that. But I did want to mention too that we don't live in a bubble, obviously. We can't avoid everything. But we can control a lot, and that's what's important to remember is we can make, some gradual changes in implementing better natural body care products, foods, implementing some lifestyle changes to help the liver. And, there's been a lot of research where even if your liver is, say, like I was reading one research paper where someone's liver, 90% of it was removed but it regrew back. That's what's great about the liver is it's such a regenerative organ that you can certainly change things around and correct them. And that's the thing I really want people to remember is if you have any of these symptoms or issues or are concerned about liver health, you can really change it around.
Yeah, I love that. I love that piece.
Yeah.
And I want people to know where they can find you. So we will definitely put your information in the show notes. And Kristine has offered a discount to the viewers of this podcast. So we will also include that if you want to go on her website and browse and shop and look for some good botanicals. Uh, and it's been such a pleasure. And I would love to have you come back and maybe we can talk more about hormonal health or anything else that you think that women would benefit from
Yeah,
with your knowledge
absolutely.
and your
Yeah, and that's, besides my botanicals, that's also, I do a lot of consultations and interpret the Dutch test and definitely help people with lifestyle changes because sometimes I find that people are so inundated with so much information, and there's much out there, especially now with AI. It's like, and it's sometimes confusing what's true and what's not true. So I would love that, Cheryl.
okay, that would be perfect. Any last thoughts before we go?
No, I just want to remind people that, oh, for a lot of us, it's springtime. So this is actually liver time. This is when actually we can start loving on our liver more and cleaning up our diets and cleaning, getting a little more activity and kind of getting out of hibernation. So this is the perfect time to start working on your liver health if you haven't done so and just try a few things here and there. And, I always say like just start easily. Like don't try to implement too many things at once and just try with one or two things and see how that works for you and kind of master those and then move on. So I would encourage people to start looking at liver health and then just working on one or two things and getting those mastered.
And I appreciate you reminding me about the bitters because I was so good about it when my son has a big garden and I was so good about it. I was getting all kinds of fresh stuff from him. And I kind of forget that I can find plenty of those things at my store. And one of my favorites was arugula. I love arugula.
Oh
So
yeah.
thank you for that reminder of the bitter foods.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Okay, well, it has been a pleasure to have you on here, and I look forward to continue my work with you and you helping me with my liver health and hormonal health. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thanks, Cheryl, for letting me assist you and good work. Again, it's all you. You're doing all the work. I'm just kind of doing a little guidance. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate you.
Hey,
So
thank you.
thanks. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.